Happy Friday, everyone. It's Invisible Walls, episode 105, right here on GameTrailers.com, folks. Here come the games, finally. And here comes E3 just right around the corner, and things are definitely ramping up in the industry right now, getting ready for the big rush. And here to talk to you about it is Ryan Stevens.
Hello, peoples.
Mike Damiani.
Hey, y'all.
Justin Spear.
Enthusiasm.
All right, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of really good big stuff. Let's do it. All right, so with the Halo Reach beta, multiplayer beta, coming up on May 3rd, Justin, you had a chance to go up to Seattle to visit the fine folks at Bungie and sort of check everything out beforehand.
Fine folks, all of them. It's a class act.
They moved into a new office, correct?
Yep.
Is it nice?
Is it an office?
It's the same place I was at last time. The main drawback is it's not attached to a Pancake House.
Oh.
But other than that, it's okay.
So let's talk about the game. Now, you only played multiplayer, right? No campaign.
Yeah, it's all multiplayer, 4 maps total. You know, I'm sure you guys have seen some videos, seen some new weapons and
you mean those videos where you kept dying a lot?
Actually, this time I did really well.
Dominated.
I did a lot of killing.
Kills.
No, I did pretty well. It's because we have an easier capture setup now. I don't have to worry if the cables are loose or if it's not recording or if it's
On fire.
Yeah,
I think what most people want to know about the game is what has changed, what is new. Obviously, we've been playing Halo multiplayer for quite a while now. I think there are certain tenements of it that you expect to be the same. So have they sort of stepped over those boundaries, or is it still truly a Halo experience?
I mean, I don't think they're going to offend or alienate anyone with the changes they've made. I guess the one kind of big one is default control scheme is now different to where all the buttons that do your attacks and abilities are on the triggers or the bumpers. So face button, they've actually moved jump to face button though, because your armor ability is on the left bumper. Left trigger is throw grenade, right trigger is fire, and right bumper is melee. So all your buttons that you typically need to kill people are right there.
So they moved the melee to a shoulder button.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier to
That's funny. I mean, Halo was already so Melee spammy. I think someone did I think Bungie at one point put out like a statistic of like killing blows, and it's something like 50% are melee.
Well, a lot of times what happens is you empty your clip into a guy, and then you're like, not dead yet. Boom.
Yeah, you finish him off with the butt of your gun.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Spartans
are bullet sponges in Halo. It's funny after you go from a modern shooter. We went back and played.
Elites are even spongier.
Yeah, that's this time around they play different, right?
It's cool. Oh yeah, elites are. They're a little more badass. They're bigger and more hit points, more shields actually, but they're bigger target.
Didn't you say that they spawn only with energy weapons? Like they're actually the races actually matter on a lot of levels, right?
Oh well, it's only certain game modes, and so far it's only invasion, I think, and then there's an objective based thing. They called it net test, which isn't very catchy. They'll probably change it. It's like objective based. One side defend generators, other side attack them. So it's only in certain game types that you'll have it split up. There's no way I think that they would do just regular, ranked Slayer matches and you can play as an elite as you want or whatever,
Did they do anything to balance energy weapons versus like the immediacy of bullets and stuff?
I don't know. I mean, the new energy weapons are really cool. The plasma repeater is a.
Oh yeah, can you explain that? Because
it's
definitely
a dumb
my
name.
favorite.
It's better that the plasma rifle. I guess it just feels a little. It's just a little more effective, it shoots faster and for longer.
Is this the thing with the tracking?
Yeah, instead of putting no, this is not, that's a plasma launcher.
There's a lot of plasma going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of plasma, and you actually see for Covenant weapons, you see a little reticle for the energy weapons. It's where you should be aiming, so since it's not, immediate. So that's kind of cool.
So wait, the reticle actually leads the enemy?
It shows you where you should be positioning. If you're highlighting a target, it'll show you you need to be aiming a little bit this way. This is the direction they're moving. So it helps you a little bit since you don't have the instant, hit scan, as they call it.
Now, what was your favorite special ability?
Cloaking is the coolest. Although jetpack is really fun. And for a while, I'd screwed myself over because I had my ability mapped to the face buttons. I turned it back to bumper jumper just so I could jump, but that actually ended up screwing me over because I can't look around when you're using the jetpack. The jetpack is it's really cool.
Is it easy to maneuver?
It is easy to maneuver. You give it gas or let up on the gas, it'll recharge slowly. You're kind of a target when you're flying through the air.
Hard to shoot people, though.
You can get angles from all sides.
It's hard to playing tribes. Obviously, it takes a special skill to learn how to lead somebody in that extra axis.
It's a little easier
tribes?
here, I think. The jetpack is a little slow. It's not quite like tribes level of zippiness. So you're kind of putting yourself out there. But cloaking's really cool. It doesn't make you totally invisible. I think if you stay still, you're a little more invisible. But I mean, if a guy's running around and cloaked, you'll be able to see him. But at the same time, people can easily miss you if they're just not paying attention, or you're kind of in a dark area. And, easy to go up behind someone and get one of the little prestige kills. If you hold down the bumper, you get an extended animation. You don't have to do it, but...
Oh, that's when it goes to third person?
Yeah, that's when it goes to third person.
Is that like Gears? Does that just become an endless stream of people killing someone?
I was part of a train of 3 people that were killing each other and then getting killed. But... Well, a train of threesome doesn't make sense.
It's good to be the caboose.
Huh? It is good to be the caboose, but I was in the middle, unfortunately. But sometimes you end up on top. Sometimes, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, the game's fun.
Are they gonna? I think a lot of us here have been playing a lot of Modern Warfare, and the one thing I did miss about Halo sometimes was, are they gonna keep the kind of skill-based matchmaking? Did they say anything about that?
They didn't go into specifics, but yeah, they're basically taking all the matchmaking functionality of the old one. They're like, now this time it'll actually work like we said it would work, and
it always kind of worked.
Yeah, but they're upping everything. They want to make it easier to get into games, easier to veto a map, and then get you get a set of choices for the map you want to play. So usability stuff. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna. We didn't see it. We're playing. Just local connection, but...
Did they say if you're tied to being Covenant or a Spartan or anything, or...?
Like I said, it's per game mode. And also the loadouts you have, which are kind of like class-based loadouts, which I guess is one of the kind of more modern features, that and being able to spawn where your squad is. Not spawn on your bro sounds kind of gross to say. I wouldn't describe it like that. But yeah, you can put yourself in a vehicle if a teammate's in a vehicle, but as long as your homies are not taking fire, you can, go ahead and drop in at their location, which is really good for game movies. But yeah, what was I talking about? Okay, yeah, whether you're a leader Spartan depends on the game type and the map, and whether you have access to various loadouts like the jetpack loadout or the scout loadout, which are basically their classes. That depends on the game type also.
No, those are prefab loadouts. You can't customize those?
You can't, but you can still go out and pick up weapons off of anyone else. So it's 2 weapons and your armor ability. And every time you spawn, you can, switch that up.
Now, they replaced the bubble shield, correct? With some kind of a shielding device?
Yeah, there's no, you don't pick up camo or pick up bubble shield anymore. You have that, and you have it. It's a cooldown, there's a little meter, so you can use it up or whatever. But
and literally, a vehicle can run into you full speed, and it's like you're made out of titanium.
Yeah, the vehicle will flip over. It doesn't kill the vehicle or anything.
Pretty sweet though.
Oh, yeah, we have a good shot of it where the I guess it's a ghost hits a guy and just and when you let go of armor lock, it makes a little EMP burst. So if anyone's around you, they lose their shield. A vehicle will be disabled for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, they are. A vehicle will be totally disabled if you let up, right? But yeah, a lot of times if you're just doing armor lock in the middle of nowhere, people will be like, you can only do it for so long, and then you let it up, and then you get nailed from 3 sides. Or
now, what was your favorite game type with all these new other elements thrown in there?
Well, the game types they did have were cool. I guess the new ones I liked. Headhunter is kind of. It's just a really hectic game mode. Whenever you kill someone, a flaming skull pops out of them, and you pick it up, and then people try to kill you and get your skulls. So you can see how many skulls someone's carrying around. So it's really, you're scrambling to just get however many you can, and then a random location will spawn where you can cash in the skulls, and you basically try to make it to that.
That's kind of like what was the game we were playing on the PC?
Oh, the
Plain Sight,
Plain Sight,
suicidal robot thing.
Yeah, it's a little like that. So the more, actually, if you get 10 skulls at once and cash them in, you automatically win the map, whether it's a 25 limit or what. And the announcer says Skullamanjaro or something like that, which is kind of like the Kilimanjaro medal from before. And we have one of those on tape, so we can throw that in.
Did you score those points?
I did score a Skullamanjaro.
Now, going back to what I sort of asked at the very beginning, does it still feel like Halo? I mean, there's some pretty drastic changes.
It totally
Do you jump
still
in a parabola?
feels like Halo. Huh?
Do you jump in a parabolic motion still?
I guess so.
It doesn't look like they changed the jumping to me anyway.
Yeah, the basic feel is really similar, and the new weapons, they feel totally in line with what you expect from other Halo weapons. So
now, no perks, no leveling up, that kind of stuff. How does that all work?
No, you get points when you win, but it's totally for armor customization. So you won't be able to screw with game balance, and there won't be people discovering weird combinations where it gives them an unfair advantage or anything like that. So.
Did they say what their directive was? Sorry, Ryan. Did they say what their directive was in designing the multiplayer? Was it more to make the fans of the series happy, or to try to bring in a new audience? Did they mention anything like that?
They pretty much just said they wanted to make it awesome, and you can tell that it's in line with, they're catering to their fan base, I'm sure. But from what I can see, there's there are more things in there that people would maybe expect from a multiplayer shooter, like the loadouts or classes, being able to spawn to different locations, stuff like that. So, yeah, it looks like they're doing a good job updating it. Still totally feels like Halo. Oh, and invasion mode is objective based. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool as well. They only showed one map. I assume there will be more.
What was the objective?
It's asymmetrical, and elites are trying to basically assault this Spartan location. It's a shipyard, a place where boneyard where they're dismantling ships. So they have to make their way further in, then grab a core, which I guess it's like an AI core or info core, objective core. So you get that and you take it back to your little zone. So you have to fight your way through a few different things, and when you capture a point by having your guys in there for a certain amount of time, it'll like put down energy shields or lower barriers, and then you can move to the next part. And it'll unlock a new tier of weapon drops and vehicles. So things get a little more crazy as you get further in. So yeah, it's a cool idea. I'd be interested to see, more maps, more objectives. Because just one, it's kind of. Sega!
All right, so this was an interesting week for Sega. First, it started off with our top 10, where our top 10 necessary sequels, where a large majority of the games just so happened to be Sega games. Then we get the bombshell that Sega North America is basically closing its doors for all intents and purposes. They're
gutted,
restructured. Basically, they're going to start handling all the downloadable stuff here in North America, and in Europe, they're going to handle their packaged goods.
I blame every single one of you motherfuckers with an iPhone who bought Super Monkey Ball on the iPhone, which isn't even good.
Yeah.
But they sold like 2 million copies.
I mean, it's crazy. Sega's been... First of all, I worked in the Sega building in two different capacities. When I first started working at GameSpot, and they were owned by ZDNet, we worked in that building. Then CNET built a new building over in the other part of San Francisco, and then I got a job at Tech TV, which was also in that same building. So I feel like I have a bit of a closer relationship with that publisher. I've seen that office go from the Dreamcast era, where it was literally bristling with hundreds and hundreds of people, to the last time I went there, when it looked like there were probably 40 employees in that whole, and trust me, they had a whole floor of a huge building. So it was, I guess in some ways you would say the writing was on the wall a bit.
They keep putting out games that I feel are really creative but never sell that well. I mean, Bayonetta, well, I know Mike has something to say about that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, it's not just that. It's like, my question to Sega is, like, where have you, like, for Sega America, is like, where have you been with, like, marketing your games the last year? I mean, yeah, Bayonetta, that was a game that should have sold probably better than it did, and it's a really unique, I mean, it's made by Kamiya, the guy who invented Devil May Cry, so, hey, but, like, Sega pushed it back for the delay, that's not a big deal, but then they were just so mum about when the game was coming out in, like, January, then it's like, oh, it comes out next week, let's start marketing it, and they do that with a lot of their games nowadays. They just market it too.
I think the internet phrase is they were sent out to die.
Yeah, Infinite Space, what happened to that? Sands of Destruction, same thing. I mean, the DS titles, and I know don't sell well, but there was, at least I felt there was a little bit bigger of a market, and they could have catered to them, kind of like how Atlas treats its fans. I mean, it does it well, but Sega, their marketing and PR, I think, haven't just not been on the ball in the last year.
They have like a big game mentality and sort of a awesome niche like foothold for like some stuff. And that's kind of like where they kind of butt heads, I feel like, internally.
Well, it also kind of starts at the top, right? I mean, Sonic. Sega is Sonic, let's face it. And when your flagship property is so poor from one game to the next, you're kind of setting this precedent that almost affects the opinions of people like us. It trickles on down through the rest of your game. So while, we review games, we don't really look at stuff like that. If you're a person out there buying games and you're like, oh, this game's made by Sega, well, they can't even get Sonic the Hedgehog right. I bought that for $60. It sucked. Why should I take a risk on this game that maybe I don't know anything about?
Totally true. Especially for like the mid-level people who don't understand the difference between publishers and developers. They're like, oh man, Activision made Modern Warfare, so I'm gonna like this Activision Spider-Man game.
Yeah, it's true.
Modern Warfare was cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're not into the culture and the ins and outs of the industry like we are. They don't even know who, unless it's Miyamoto. Hell, they may not even know Miyamoto's making a game. They just look at the brand on the box. And I think at this point, like, Sega's brand is just, it's hurting,
Diluted.
I think the average person knows the Dreamcast failed. They quit making consoles, which for most of us, that's what we grew up on, Sega consoles. So there's sort of the first step. Second step, okay, we're only making software. Well, if you're only making software, then shouldn't your Sonic game be stellar? Shouldn't your flagship property be great? Well, it hasn't been. So I think what we're seeing now is just the ultimate end of the line of a series of choices that the company has made.
And they've done some weird choices. Like they've been dabbling in RTSs recently. I can't remember that horrible one.
They published Total War, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but what was the really bad one?
The one from last year?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember what that was called.
I think you reviewed it.
It was possible.
Yeah, it was that bad. But I mean, they're the ones putting out Alpha Protocol, and it doesn't seem like a Sega game. But I mean, I personally think Alpha Protocol looks okay. I'm interested, but it's weird. I'm not really sure what they were. Were they scrambling? Were they not putting their resources in the right departments? But then you hear their team ups with Nintendo, Mario Sonic and the Olympics. But how much is that?
Yeah, that's mostly. I mean, a lot of that's Nintendo pushing the marketing for those games and Nintendo's property in there, and I think Nintendo sees more benefit from that. I mean, Sega obviously their name's getting exposure, but without Nintendo in that equation, that game doesn't sell anything. I think. I mean, look at all the other Sonic racing games; they don't sell at all.
Yeah. This is more like death of Sega as a publisher in North America. It's not so deathy. They can still. They'll whip out another Virtua Fighter someday, maybe.
It's interesting looking at that they moved it to Europe, which they always had a much stronger foothold over there with the Master System and stuff like that.
But I think it also goes back to what Mike was saying, is these games are being stealth launched. You don't even know that they're coming out sometimes. And when you have a niche game like a lot of the games that they're putting out, it's like you have to message that. You have to trumpet it from the highest mountain peak, and that mountain peak being a GameTrailers or one of our competitors or whatever. They're hardly working with us on these games. A lot of times we don't even get their games until they're already on store shelves. We don't even have an ability to create any pre-launch hype for them at all.
Yeah, it's always without naming names. You may see some stuff, ironically, from Sega happening now from some hard pushes on our site, but it's hard. I feel kind of torn with this because they seem to be a lot of times at the mercy of the developers, or at least that's the line I've been fed a couple of times, which is weird because I always feel like the developers are more on the side of things when it comes to
Japan, I think, is kind of
pulling strings.
Well, Sega will point at the developer, and then the developer points back at Sega.
Yeah.
It's like he said, she said.
Yeah,
great movie.
Sega Japan. I mean, you were saying like it's more so the death over here, but then again, Sega Japan, they kind of make some odd decisions. Like Valkyria Chronicles, like the first game, really awesome game, and it didn't sell as well as it should have at the beginning, but it kept going. It actually picked up.
Oh, you're talking about the PSP sequel?
And why did they put it on the system that sells the least every month? Like the PSP does not do well, and yet they're like, hey, let's put it on the PSP. It's like, you're going to go out and make a sequel, put it on PS3, which is the system everyone bought it on and was excited for.
I do have a solution for Sega, though.
Oh, yeah?
They were in trouble with the Saturn, and they fixed it by releasing or letting people put out tons and tons of porno games. I'm just saying.
Dust off that old AO rating.
I'm just saying. I remember I used to go to import video game websites and be like, look at our huge Sega collection. I'm like, all of these sound dirty and horrible.
Do you think it would ever get to the point, though, that Sega got in more trouble than it is now, perhaps, that another company might be interested in picking them up to get those brand names? Or do you think the brand names are going to be so possibly diluted by then that it's just not even going to be worth it?
I don't know that a lot of them have much cachet left. I mean...
Well, now I feel like we're picking on them, but I will have to say, give a big, what the fuck to them buying Secret Level.
Yeah.
Iron Man was sold decently, but it was a critical failure to the point where you could burn people on it.
Yeah.
Same dudes made Beast Rider. Golden Axe game, no co-op. Oh, that doesn't matter. There's animals you can ride. So let's buy them, turn them into an internal studio.
The problem is they made those two at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I mean, that's one of the games they sent out to die was Beast Rider.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no promo for that
$24 million, 3.5 years in development. It was one of the most depressing postmortems I've ever read.
Well, they may have just had to cut their losses at some point.
No, we keep harping on it, but I mean, also their partnership with Platinum Games, Sega. I mean, to me, that feels really squandered what they had. They had a really good opportunity there.
Well, when they first announced it, we were all like, hell yeah, that's a good call. That's a smart move. But sometimes the best calls don't always work out to be for the best.
And then you have, Vanquish is the last one coming out?
The fourth, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we all saw Mad World, and when we first saw it, we're like, right on. Like, that game's going to do well. Granted, they showed us sort of limited slices of it, and we didn't realize, that it got a bit repetitive, and there maybe necessarily wasn't
I think it's still good. I mean, that's
no,
probably
it is a good
failure.
game.
People just not,
But I think
that game's all black and white. Oh, it's gimmicky. I don't know if I want to give that a try.
But I think we anticipated it would do a lot better than it did.
Yeah, it just
At
didn't.
retail.
People just didn't get turned on to it. I guess. I mean, it looked cool to me, but I mean,
I think in that case, you can't really blame Sega. I think they made the right call. They're working with people who've made great games and great modern games, but sometimes deals just turn out sour. But the other stuff that they can control, which is their in-house stuff, their Sonic games, I mean, is there any hope for a good Sonic game? I mean, they have to give that game to Sonic Team, and has Sonic Team proven that it can make a good modern game?
Well, no. And that's why Sonic 4 is not with Sonic Team. Was it Yuji Naka or someone said the Sonic should not be handled by Sonic Team anymore. That was their internal decision that they're so into this one mindset of making these type of games that they just can't make what Sonic used to be, how it used to be good. So they handed it off to the guys who make Sonic Rush and I forget what the company's name. The Game Boy Advance ones and the DS ones. They made those. And it seems like a great idea. It's HD, it's old school Sonic, but again, another weird decision to me is it's broken into episodes.
Yeah.
But who knows? It might be good, but it goes to some of the marketing decisions they do about.
So what happens to Sonic Team when they're not making the Sonic games?
Burning Rangers 2.
They're just called Team.
It's coming.
Yeah. Well, Sega, we love you. We probably always will. You have a soft spot in our heart, but man, you're that's some tough love, brother.
Put out Shenmue 3. All will be forgiven.
Get Steve Urkel to redo the voice of Sonic.
That's a final nail in their coffin. But at least they go out with dignity.
Hey, wait a minute! Hey, Hazuki, you think you can bump into me and not even apologize?
Yeah, jerk! Apologize to Enoki-san!
Or maybe I'll just beat an apology out of you!
I don't have time for this. Get lost.
Rise from your grave.
Next, we're going to talk about, and Justin, today is your day, brother. This is your episode of Invisible Walls.
I've been traveling a lot.
We're going to change it from episode 105 to episode Justin Spear.
Wow.
Cool with you?
I guess. I mean, I'm just doing my job.
Is this new math?
Just talking about what I'm supposed to talk about.
Yeah, you've been a fortunate guy. You've been going out and seeing some good stuff.
Yeah, I have seen some good stuff.
And another recent game you saw that we're all excited about is Crysis 2. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the first Crysis was sort of a benchmark in PC development. It's sort of that game that everyone says, okay,
will your machine run it or not?
Will your machine run Crysis or not? So you think they're going to be able to follow in the footsteps of the first game? Is it going to be a benchmark type game?
It looks really good. The graphics are good.
I think the new benchmark is going to be like my 360 outdoes your PC though, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's I guess the big thing. The gameplay. They showed us a gameplay demo. Unfortunately, we just have the trailer to show everyone else. But yeah, we saw it running on a 360, and it is a step up for 360 from anything you've seen.
Best looking 360 game you've ever seen?
Yeah, I think I'd have to say that. Wow. It looks really good.
Is that the only version that they showed?
Well, they showed a few other trailers, and they showed some of the they're available on our site. You can see some kind of tech demo style trailers, and they showed on PC and on PS3 and 360.
At GDC, they were running them simultaneously, PS3 and 360. I know when we recorded it, I think the PS3 version crashed. But for the most part, they were running simultaneously at like the same specs.
Yeah, what's up with the game?
Well, yeah, there's an alien force invading, and there's some dudes with some government agency, which may or may not be your friend, and may or may not be more your friend in the future. But yeah, in the beginning, I guess you have the suit, the magical, nano suit 2.0. Other guys want it, and you want it, I guess, to kill these big ass, weird looking alien things. It's for gameplay wise.
That sounds like 8,000
gameplay
other
wise,
games I've heard of.
Yeah, I mean, not the most original. They did get a sci-fi author who's supposedly written some pretty cool stuff. It'll probably be decent. Gameplay wise, they still have the different suit modes like power mode, speed mode, stealth mode, but it's a little different. I think they have 2 primary mode now, and one is like power and kick-ass explosion things, and the other one is kind of more sneaky, scanning type mode. The same thing where you pick different, attributes to accentuate for your suit, and they've streamlined it a little bit to take the 2 most common profiles, and you can also kind of activate other abilities like scan objects in the environment.
And that's like Metroid?
Yeah, it's like another layer of, performance that you can slap into your suit. But yeah, it looks really good.
What's up with the PC version?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're making it.
But is it going to be this rig destroyer like the first one, or is it going to look just like the PS3 and 360 version?
I'm really unable to say. I mean, I didn't see the games running gameplay side by side, but
does this also show? I mean, isn't this sort of the clearest indicator yet that's the short of the shift of focus away from the PC towards consoles when a game like Crysis is now being shown first on the consoles versus the PC?
Maybe. I mean, I guess.
I mean, those games are built.
People
want to
do everything they
on the PC. So why wouldn't they show the PC version?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of PC fans out there listening to this that have to be a little disappointed that the focus is on the console versions because this.
Well, I mean, it's a big deal that they're like, hey, look, we can put this on the consoles. Pretty
I mean,
impressive,
aside from strategy
games, that is pretty impressive.
Aside from strategy games and MMOs, I mean, what franchises left that really PC users could call their own? I mean, Crysis really was one of those series. It still was like it was a PC franchise, and now for them to show the console versions first, it's just a little funky, I think.
Like, yeah, another cool thing about Crysis was all the videos that came out like down the road of people messing around with the engine and stuff, creating those crazy, insane like physics videos and stuff like that. I mean, I'm looking forward to stuff like that with the 2, but I mean, I understand it's an achievement, I guess, to get it on console, but I don't think PC gamers think like that. I don't think they care about that. I think they want to know that the PC version is, the front runner here, and that it's the primary focus.
I have a feeling it still is.
Yeah, I think they're going to strike. I think they just probably wanted to sow the seeds of, hey, console fans, check this shit out.
Just seems like they'd want to show that PC version first in their trailers, and
maybe it's going to look so much better. That it's going to let the little consoles have a little room to breathe first.
But I don't think it works better in reverse. If you expect the PC version to look better, it should look better. So that you automatically sort of lower your expectations for the console versions. I think showing them in reverse, showing the console version first, then you're like, now the console version doesn't look so good.
John Riccatello's new EA plan is going to bamboozle you.
Yeah, but anyway.
So what about multiplayer? Did they talk about it at all?
They definitely will be multiplayer. They're not talking about it yet. Basically, I mean, the focus of the event is we have this awesome technology. We're going to use it to do awesome things. Here's the proof, we see the game running. I guess if I said one thing about it, since we don't have a gameplay trailer to show, the thing that struck me about it is it just looks like one step closer to looking like that extra layer of realism from incidental detail that you see in like a CG movie. It's like they're putting some of that in the game. The things that happen in real time as you're playing, you're like, that would be, that would definitely be a cutscene.
Well, it's like Avatar, right? Games. You watch Avatar, and you can't really put your finger on why it looks so much better than other CG films. Sure, I mean, the creatures are much more convincing or whatever, but it's not like you can watch a frame of that and be like, oh, that shader, or...
Yeah. It's just the small details. You're like, your brain, you look at it and you think, that just looks a little more real than, than I thought it would. That looks a little closer to what people in movies. So I think when we actually start seeing gameplay clips, people will be impressed. I mean, it's not going to... Standards are already really high. We have great looking console games. Uncharted 2 Looks great. Standards are really high. It's not like a huge step above anything you could ever imagine. But, I mean, you'll be able to appreciate that detail.
Well, maybe you brought up the bigger question. Is it the best-looking console game you've ever seen? Even better than PS3 exclusives?
I saw such a small part of it. It's tough for me to say.
Wait for the train level.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to say. It's moving pretty quickly. I'm not playing, myself. Obviously, it's hard to scrutinize, different parts of it. But I mean, it's definitely it's impressive.
In that league. It's
an impressive game. It'll be in the running.
We cannot fight new wars with old weapons.
All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer your burning questions. And Mike Damiani has this week's question.
And this question comes from user Miro Kunite. And they would like to know, what video game theme do you feel is underused, such as Western, noir, and alternative history? Well,
I think it has to be like an alien planet.
Well, I was going to say, let's go back to dinosaurs in the Jurassic era.
With Cadillacs.
We need more dinosaur games.
Some good dinosaur games.
Like a Dino Riders game.
Alternative history is
awesome.
Interesting. I mean, Darkest of Days wasn't that good, but
I
like anything where it's like, if the Nazis had won World War II,
they would have a good TV show in there somewhere. I think
they would have polluted the world.
Awesome.
Now you must stop the Nazis from polluting the world.
What is this question like? What game theme do you want to see overused next? I mean, if something's original, it's going to be original. It's all in the way you treat it.
But there are certain ones that are used over and over and over.
I just see maybe something that's like oceans or underwater.
I mean, I'm guessing probably
like
Red
Dead
Dead Redemption was the sort of the genesis of this question. The Old West. There haven't been that many Old West games, in all honesty. But I think that's what he's asking. Like, what sort of eras or settings have you?
The Roaring 20s.
LA Noire,
yeah.
Right? I'd like to see something that's kind of a mix between science fiction and fantasy, because they're so easy to just fall on the tropes that there's aliens, there's
Final
dragons.
Fantasy 13?
There's dragons.
See what happened?
Your wife got a lot of props in the comments last week. No, I just like to see something like actually like more original, and usually that ends up at like being weird. But like I've been looking at some of the comic books from this guy Mobius. I don't remember his real name, but like he does this stuff. If you ever seen the movie Heavy Metal, the animated movie,
sure.
He did the last section with like the kind of like there are kind of dragons, but it doesn't really feel like fantasy. It's kind of like it's like medieval or like prehistory kind of meets post-apocalyptic at the same time, and it's kind of a good mesh. Like, did you ever watch like Thunder the Barbarian?
Yeah,
like I think that'd be an interesting take on post-apocalyptic instead of like Fallout.
I thought that world they were in was just freaking lame.
No, Thundar is awesome, dude.
I love Thundar. Don't get me wrong. I watch that
Mock
cartoon every day. I just thought the world that they were in was just kind of bleh.
It was awesome because the wizards would always be like, "Oh, it's a wizard," and then they would always be like, they're just using like D-cell batteries to power a flashlight or something.
There was one wizard that was actually a robot, and there's other wizards who actually have magical power though. Yeah, there's a lot of. It's a terrible world to live in if you're just a little dude. You have technology and magic all kicking your ass. You're just trying to.
I think what I would like to see more in video games is sort of alternative culture or other cultures. A game set and you're in a tribe in Africa, or a game set in like the rave scene or the punk rock scene.
Mark Echo's Getting Up.
The graffiti scene.
What about Once We're Warriors, the game?
I mean,
I don't know who the playable character would be.
You see these elements in some games, like they'll sort of scrape by them. They'll have a brush with these parts of our society or whatever. But a game set entirely in one of them, where they really take the time to get the subculture right, learn the ins and outs of it. I think that would be interesting. It would also sort of open up these subcultures to people who maybe never had a chance to experience them.
Do you think the meta side of games like Skate and Tony Hawk kind of did that for skating? Or do you think they kind of missed the boat? Because I know you were a skateboarder.
I was a skateboarder. No, they totally missed it, dude. I mean, they're always like, oh, let's do a prank, or let's pour a soda on this dude's head. That wasn't what being a skateboarder was about.
But the new one's about building your brand.
Right.
Yeah, you have to sell those decks.
I think, if anything, those games actually kind of sold out the skateboarding scene. I mean, what we really did was we skated all day and we went to punk rock shows at night. That's what we did. We didn't go out and like pull pranks on each other. We weren't like jumping off our roofs and crap. We were so beat up from skating all day and so tired that we go mosh with each other all night. So I just think if you could dive in deep and really get experts that have been a part of those scenes to work on your games with them to make sure there's that authenticity, it would resonate with the people who have been in those scenes or been a part of those scenes. It would also sort of be the best way for people who don't know anything about them to sort of learn about them.
Hey,
what about you, Stevens?
Xenoclash is a cool setting, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the Xenoclash is one of the things, like, there should be a preview going up any day now.
Yeah, sometime.
And, but it's one of those ones where it's just weird. I mean, it's not going to be for everyone, but I can appreciate weird, and it has sort of like a philosophy behind all of its stuff. So it kind of, even if you don't,
it's
you're
not like
out a
random
book.
weird. It's like, calculated world weird.
I would call it like it has like an internal logic, but like also the first time, like within minutes of playing the game, you're uppercutting a dude that looks like a giant bird. So that is weird. It makes some bird sounds. Yeah, subcultures are interesting. There was an adventure game. Not free shareware adventure game, I think last year. Can't remember what it's called, but it was a serious game, and you played a rabbi, and you were actually like a rabbi detective. And it sounds kind of funny, but it was like serious, but like it actually had a bunch of like Jewish culture in it.
Hebrew Hammer?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, what's the name of that movie?
Or what about a game set in the porn industry? It doesn't necessarily have to have porn in it, but
Leisure Suit Larry?
Yeah, the last Leisure Suit Larry was kind of like that, but terrible.
Yeah, I mean like a AAA, high quality, big budget game set in these universe.
Happened.
No, I bet Rockstar could pull something like that off.
You don't have to have porn in it just because it's set in the porn industry.
That's true, but I mean,
like, you ever see that Family Business show?
No.
Rockstar does put a lot of porn in their games anyway. They have Candy Sucks is always
yeah, I mean, there's
around.
Innuendo.
Yeah.
But I mean a game set in that universe where you learn the ins and outs of the business.
It could be an RTS. You send pizza boys to married women's houses. I guess it'd be more of a tower defense game.
I think overall, though, video games have really just scratched the surface of what they can do. It's kind of disappointing when you see some games that try to stretch out and do something new fail.
Well, it's a verb-based industry, and the verbs are hit and shoot. For the most part, and you kind of gravitate towards war and things like fantasy war, science fiction war. That's where things happen.
But I also think that the next game that comes along that really blows people away, or people are like, that's really different, I think it's going to need to incorporate some type of a setting like this for it to happen. I mean, I've killed so many aliens at this point. I've fought through so many wars.
Well, would you say the Avatar movie had a unique setting? Or, I mean, it was a huge
Certainly.
success yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wonder if they're kicking themselves, because the game came out before the movie, and the game was not nearly as good as the movie. If they could go back and I'm sure there's someone there's like, we're going back to Pandora in a future game.
Well, I heard they wanted to do an MMO. Like, Cameron was like, this is going to be a world you live in.
They spent so much time creating that world, and as I watched them, it was like, why was the video game not half of this shit? Like,
right.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we know why, but
yeah. I'd want to play but like on this, what I was saying before, like anyone ever see The Dark Crystal?
No, of course. One of my
I would
favorite
love
movies.
a Dark Crystal game. Like Sierra made one in like '82 with like CGA graphics or something like that. But I would love a Dark Crystal because that's one where it's fantasy, but it's also that it has that whole world. It's really fleshed out and it's very kind of believable. Even if when they walk, they look stupid.
I mean, when the
movie
movie
basic setting, I mean, it's up to the people to make it original and make it their own. Make it something you haven't seen before. You could do a Western and you just take in other elements and make something.
And you get Rising Zan.
Yeah, Rising Zan, Samurai Gunner. There you go.
I mean, it's really shocking to me that we haven't seen the gaming industry go back and plumb stuff like that. I mean, we haven't seen a movie for The Dark Crystal. We haven't seen a movie for The Never-Ending Story. These are classic movies that still tell a great story today.
Yeah, they just whore it out and ruin everyone's childhood.
But look at the movie industry. They're doing it constantly. They're tonight,
I wish
Nightmare on Elm Street remake comes out. They've remade the Texas I mean, all they're doing, they've run out of ideas. So I'm surprised that the gaming industry haven't really gone back and looked at old properties like what you mentioned, Ryan, and really started working on those and trying to create games.
But every time once in a while,
post-apocalyptic shooter. That's an idea.
Occasionally, once in a while, like didn't they license Reservoir Dogs a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
The movie was a good 10 years old by then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think maybe the problem is some of the games are, the setting is so generic and not fleshed out that it's like they're remaking Doom or whatever, World War II shooter over and over again. There's nothing to set it apart, really. I mean, you don't have to, take specific elements of specific characters. There's like, well, this is a game where you do these same things, and there you go.
Even pairing up with movies, we've had this conversation before. The best games aren't the ones that you play the scenes from the movies. It's the ones that supplement and flesh out the game. I mean, the Riddick game is way better than Star Wars Episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like you can do original ideas and be inspired by movies and books and stuff, but you can also just games are games. They are a separate thing. They're kind of built on a foundation of like traditional narrative, but you don't have to be, really. They're interactive, and you don't have to be kind of shackled by that.
Miro Kunite, good question, bro.
Oh, and from now on, you get GTP if you send questions. So send questions to go to invisiblewalls.gametrailers.com and leave questions on our blog. Thank you.
Have a pee.
Those Germans just keep coming, and the best way to overcome a numerical advantage is vastly superior firepower. I advise you to unleash its righteous fury on the battleground, preferably the German side.
Okay, that's going to do it for Invisible Walls episode Justin Spear here on GameTrailers.com.
105's fine, too.
Tonight on Game Trailers TV on Spike TV at 12:40, so a little bit half past midnight. We have a brand new episode. We are premiering the new Call of Duty game. I cannot say anything more about it other than that. New Call of Duty tonight on Game Trailers TV on Spike TV. Make sure you check it out. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We love you guys. Invisible Walls is up and out.